I have to admit, Renee reached out to me, what was it, the end of August, beginning of September last year, and said she was helping Adam and Althea put together Science on Tap, and she says, you're marginally entertaining, perhaps you can put together a program. She says, now you don't need, I said, I can't do it in the fall, I'll do it in the spring semester. She said, you don't need the formal title and the description just yet, just give me a heads up. And the first thing I think I said to her was chickens. And I don't know
about
why.
chickens in our schedule.
Pardon me?
Something about chickens.
Something about chickens. And then I thought about it after I said it, and I thought, what the hell am I supposed to do with that? Like, that's not science necessarily. So I started thinking about all the things I could talk about related to chickens. And I said, okay, well, I have chickens. I have 1 rooster and 7 hens right now, and I've had more. So I have some chickens. I can talk about that. I can talk about some myths associated with chickens. I can give you recipes. I'm not doing that today. So I went through all these things, and then this is what occurred to me last. And I'm almost ashamed to admit this in a room full of academic folks, but it turns out what I study is actually the game of chicken. And that didn't even occur to me until after I thought about all the other things. So today, we will talk about the game of chicken. We'll talk about pandemic pets. We'll talk about chicken TV, and I have a special surprise. And we'll talk about a bunch of other things related to chickens. Now, those on Zoom, I'm going to try and do this so you can see. My husband says to me, I think you have a problem with chickens, because I'm going to tell you this is not the only chicken-related t-shirt I own. You can see this. It says, chickens make me happy, and there's a heart. Valentine's Day is coming. I'm not going to show you guys on Zoom because I'm not this flexible, but I have my chicken mug boots, because who doesn't have these? Yep. I also have, if I were to take the boots off, roosters on my socks. But I've had these boots on for a little bit, so we're not going to take those off. I have, courtesy of my friend Peggy Burke, my chicken mask. And I even have one that she sewed incorrectly, so it's upside down. So after the party tonight, it's my drunk chicken mask. And I have other assorted chicken paraphernalia, and I'm going to drink my water, if you guys can see this, out of my chicken mug. Coordinated, that's a really polite way to put it. Who said it? Very polite. My husband says crazy. So I also have a chicken gizmo here with some peanuts, if anybody wants to eat some nuts, and then everybody's got peeps on their table, so we can enjoy peeps. So I think the message here is, you can love your pets, but perhaps don't love them. You can love your pets, don't love your pets. So this is what we'll talk about this evening. And again, I mentioned, I completely forgot I study chicken. Perhaps I should be fired, we don't know. I will talk about pandemic pets, and then I'll talk about what we should know about chickens, what is chicken TV, and I'm going to answer this question. And I have 2 answers for why the chicken crossed the road. And if you have other answers, they're not right. I'm making the rules tonight, that's how it works. So let's talk about game theory, because that is exactly what I study. And I actually rather enjoy conflict, not necessarily participating in it, but I enjoy watching it. And watching people in conflict, or watching situations that are conflict, which is, this explains a lot. Sure. I was a dean too, I mean, I suppose that explains it too, right? I kind of enjoyed the conflict. But honestly, game theory is something that, I'm certainly studying in communication, but it spans across different disciplines. So you might see it in certainly political science, you'd see it in economics, you'd see it in science, I see it in science myself, so any number of disciplines. So what essentially it is people playing a game. And we can call it a game, but it's essentially interactions. So one of the examples I was playing with in my head earlier was when I was the dean, maybe you come into the office as a faculty member, and I think I have Tara, but you weren't here when I was the dean. Denny's on the line. So we'll pick on Denny. Yay. Because Denny came into my office when I was the dean every day, just to say hello. But what if he came in to ask for a raise? Now many of us, I think most of us all work at Bonaventure, have worked at Bonaventure, so we all know what the answer is going to be, right? No. So this is an interaction, it's a game, it's a conflict situation. So in game theory, there are certain assumptions. So we know what the outcomes, or there are prescribed outcomes in the situation. So in that particular instance, the outcome is either yes, maybe Denny gets a raise, or no, he doesn't. We also know that there's a pattern of preferences. I know Denny's preference is a raise. My preference would be to give him one too, just so he leaves my office. But we also know that the variables controlling the outcomes are defined. So everything has a defined parameter within the game itself. And each player knows the preferences of the other folks playing. And I would argue if you're in a leadership position, you really should know your employees, because the example I use of someone wanting more money, okay, well if you're in a situation like many organizations are now where you can't really do that, well what else is there? Money isn't the only thing there is. So what are some of the other things that might be of value to the person you're dealing with? And that might change depending on the person. Maybe someone wants more time off, they want a course release, they want to go to a conference or something like that. So one of the most common games that people are probably familiar with is the Prisoner's Dilemma. And I would argue, the famous study of Prisoner's Dilemma was Robert Axelrod in the mid-1980s, and he put together different strategies related to Prisoner's Dilemma. And when I first started learning about game theory a long time ago, I thought, okay, that's interesting, but I don't necessarily apply this in the real world as much as I might some other games. So I'm going to give you an example with of what the Prisoner's Dilemma essentially is. And I told Jimmy earlier that I was going to use him as an example in my presentation. So Jimmy is the J. You see the column player, I'm P. Now, Jimmy and I both grew up in a small town east of Buffalo called Alden. We both went to the same high school. Here's the age difference though. I graduated from Bonaventure with a woman who was his biology teacher. She's a little nuts, yes. And if this is recorded, I hope she doesn't see it. Because she knows where I live. Anyway. So Jimmy and I have decided that, my recent, certification that I got, and I saw that you've got this, published article, congratulations to you, but they're not getting us any more money.
No, they won't.
So we've decided we're going to rob the 7-Eleven.
That's where the big bucks are.
So we go in. We go into the 7-Eleven and we take the money in the till, a big gulp of Snickers or something, and we walk out, and it turns out we are really bad at crime. So we're caught and we're hauled off to Olean jail, and I don't think that exists.
Really bad.
We are really bad. Well, we did, because neither one of us is running fast. So we're hauled off to Olean jail, which again I don't think is an actual place, but we'll pretend for today that there's an Olean jail. So what do they do? We've all watched police procedurals. They put Jimmy in one room and they put me in another, and they try and get us to turn on each other, right? So they're going to go into Jimmy and they're going to say, Jimmy, we just talked to Pauline and she spilled it. She blamed everything on you. And he's going to say, I don't believe that. That bitch don't crap. Like, she's not going to.
No, she won't.
And they're gonna come into me and they're gonna say, Jimmy spilled it. And I'm gonna say,
Yeah, what's against Jimmy?
How many drinks did you get?
like, what'd you do? Flick his ear? And he was like, no, the guy did it. Stop it right now. So essentially what you have is a situation where we have two choices. We can either cooperate, which is not say a word, we're going to be silent, and ask for an attorney, right, which is what we should do when we've stolen a big gulp. Or we can confess, which is defecting. So I've noted, and these right here represent points, like the number of points. You can get in the idea is obviously in any game you want to get the most points. So if both of us shut up and don't say a word, we're going to end up with 3 points, each of us. If we both speak and confess, we'll end up with 1 point. Now, if Jimmy shuts up and I speak, he's going to end up with 0 points and I'll end up with 5. And conversely, if I shut up and he speaks, he'll end up with more points than me. With Prisoner's Dilemma, the idea is that if you're going to be dealing with somebody more than once, which we likely will because we know each other, we're going to develop some sort of cooperative behavior. Now, that's probably a bad example because after we knocked off. After we robbed the 7-Eleven, I think our crime spree days are over, so we're probably not doing this again. But and you can take a look at this if I were looking at this in terms of perhaps number of years in jail. Yeah, Jose.
Pauline, is this why drug lords and the mob tend to hire family members instead of random people because they're
Yeah, sure you do.
That's not my area of expertise.
It's not that kind of farm.
Sorry, what?
It's not that kind of farm.
Yeah, right, it's not that kind of farm. It's not that kind of farm. Although, perhaps, I don't know, I'll see if I can find that answer for you. I don't know, I'm not gonna find that answer for you.
I've learned.
If I were to look at this in terms of, let's say, the number of years we might spend in jail, instead of points, I kind of flip these. So maybe if I confess I'm not getting any, he's gonna get fined. Now, let's take a look at the game of chicken.
That's possible.
Now here I'm using Ann Tanglin.
Oh!
And Ann, it's so funny, I sent her an email earlier and I said, Ann, what kind of car do you drive? And she says, I'm actually afraid of why you want to know that. I've never run over a chicken, is what she responded. And I said, the game of chicken is exactly what you heard it is. Two cars essentially going at each other full speed, and whoever swerves is, doesn't save face and looks like is the chicken. So Ann comes to me, she walks over from Friesen to Murphy to my office, and she says, you know what I think would be a good time, Pauline? I think you should get in your Honda Fit, and I'm gonna get in my Chevy Cruze, and we're gonna go out on State Street, and we're gonna drive at each other at a high rate of speed, and see which one of us swerves. Because that's something that Ann Tanglin would do. Ann is not. See, I had to be picky because I couldn't say Renee, because Renee would probably be into that. So in this particular case, the payoff matrix is a bit different from Prisoner's Dilemma, because if neither one of us swerves, we're driving our vehicles, and I'm thinking I'm gonna trust my Japanese engineering or whatever it is. I mean, we're gonna die, probably, or be maimed, and it's not gonna be pretty. If we both swerve, we'll get about 7 points, because we both were chickens, so no one is more chicken than another person. Now, if Ann, over here, red, if she doesn't swerve and I do, she's gonna be the hero, I'm the loser, so she's gonna get more points, and conversely, if she swerves and I don't, I'll end up with more points. Now, taking a look at this, the best opportunity for the two of us would be to develop something conciliatory. So it might be, you know what, Ann, you swerve this time, I'll swerve next time. We're gonna be playing.
How often do you plan on playing?
Just today. Well, that depends. I mean, honestly, that's another piece of game theory too, right? I mean, how final is it? Are you gonna continue to have interactions with those people, or are you not?
Is it an iterated game?
Is it, thank you very much, is it iterated? Or is it not? And is there a certain degree of finality? Now, I'm an ass, like I'm always defecting, always. And I am never gonna cooperate with you, like that's just me, because I know in the end, I'll probably end up ahead. Well, I know I'm evil. Poor Xiaoming is here, she's like, I thought you were nice. No, Xiaoming, I'm not. Bad news. I like to bring this into play too, because we've been talking about, like Ann Tanglin and I and Ginny and I, we're all even in terms of power. Like not one of us has more power than another, although I might argue Ann's more powerful simply because she has all the information in the books and the databases. However, really we're on like an even keel. I get very interested in looking at chicken and looking at Prisoner's Dilemma when you start inserting power and sin as safety in numbers. I just like to say power and sin working at a Catholic university. I think that's apropos. I'll pause while we think about that. Getting fired tomorrow. So who has the power? If you think about like labor management relations, management generally has more power than labor. That's where safety in numbers comes in. If you get enough people together, working together, that's going to help your cause, and it's going to change the matrix and the payoff matrix. So I'm really interested. Pardon me? Well, the Starbucks workers. I'm so fascinated with how everybody's working together. And Mary Rose is here, and she's our AAUP New York State president. And how many presidents from universities have we ousted because of safety in numbers, essentially? We're going to put that on our CVs, just FYI. Just FYI. Okay, so now we're going to get away from chicken, or away from game theory, and talk about pandemic pets again, or pandemic pets. Not again, we haven't talked about them yet. Chickens were very popular during the pandemic, as were dogs and cats. Like people went to the SPCA and the Humane Societies and decided we need pets. Of course, now they're taking them back, and I'd like to poke their eyes out with pens. I mean, poor Johnny's like, I didn't know this. And I have to note, people are stupid, that's really mean, I know. But honestly, don't just go get an animal and think, oh, I'll just have this animal, it's just fabulous, and not think about, you've got to take care of the animal. Yes, chickens are low maintenance, but they are not no maintenance. So there's some maintenance involved. So I went, and I did a very communication thing, so I did the who, what, where, when, why, and how. So what? People stress purchase chickens during the pandemic, and I tried like the dickens to try and find some firm numbers in terms of how many dogs or cats or chickens, and it just gave me percentages, so I couldn't get something that concrete that I really liked. And some people are using them as emotional support animals, which is fine. Here's the problem I have with that, and Adam actually asked me, I think you asked me, was it you who asked me, did I bring one with me, or someone asked me, and I'm like, no, they poop whenever they want. So I don't, no one's walking around with a chicken under their arm and not getting pooped on, and I'm not wearing like latex, I'm just not gonna do that. So, you can get them. Tractor Supply, one of my favorite places. This is where the shirt came from. It's like my favorite store. I know that gave me not 1 ounce of street cred. I don't care. People in our area, we're in a rural area, you can get them. You can also order them by mail.
Chicken.
You sure can.
Kids in the mail.
Pardon?
They've got kids in the mail.
This is, and I've been in the post office in my town in Franklinville, and I've heard them. I can hear the little chicken going on in the background. Normally, it's not a problem because they can get delivered pretty much the next day. However, you may recall during the last presidency, we had a post office issue. And a lot of chickens died. And one woman in Zonta, in fact, had told me the story that she had ordered, I forget how many, and when she got her little package, I think there was only one of the whatever number of chickens alive. It was a big problem.
Did the chicken eat the other chicken?
No, they just, because they weren't delivered, they were like stuck in some warehouse or whatever. The chicken. Yeah. No, they usually, like if you're ordering chickens, you're getting them right away, so I don't think, yeah. So, someone asked them. Oh, sorry, You don't need an enormous amount of space for chickens, but you do need some, unless you want them living in your house, which again, I'm not recommending unless you're gonna put papers all over your, I just don't understand it. Anyway, so get yourself a coop, or a little, like if you have a backyard. Now, why were people buying chickens? And I did find this. Now I got this from the National Chicken Council, so take it for what it's worth here. But chicken consumption in pounds is increasing. People were buying the chickens because food costs were increasing. And chickens are cute. I mean, come on now. They're cute. Chicks are cute. Chicks are not the same thing. Oh, chickens are cute. You wait. Chickens are cute. They're relatively easy to take care of. Again, low maintenance, not no maintenance. And homesteading is really cool now, right? I mean, there was a run on yeast. If you wanted yeast last year, you weren't getting it during the pandemic, right? Because people were decided they were going to make bread. And you couldn't buy canning goods. I was just going to say, canning goods, you couldn't get them. Because all of a sudden, people decided they should have pickles. So you had all of this run or jam. So you could just go get them. It was during the pandemic. Chickens are animals. I mean, look at this little bugger. Come on.
He's so cute.
You want to take him home.
They are really cute.
So here's the Hoffman's hen house.
Aww.
I'm going to say this. My husband is an engineer, so we couldn't have a Tractor Supply coop. He spent days, and if anyone's married, you were not bothered by that, right? You're like, oh, you're going to be outside for days? You take as long as you need to build that coop. So this is our coop. It has windows. It has a sloped roof so that the snow can go off of it. But that also provides some shade, as you can see on this side. Wow. And you can see, oh, we're not screwing around with the House of Hoffman. And then here's the inside. And you can't just have a bowl of food. You need PVC pipe that you pour the food in. That way you don't have to actually fill it up every day. It's awesome, I'm not gonna lie. I really appreciate that he did this. And we also have, a ladder they can roost on. They can roost here. We had fresh hay. We bought an old dairy farm, so we still have some of the hay left over in the barn, so we're able to use that. Let me see what else I want to point out. Oh yeah, here you can see my little troughs. So they'll roost in there. So the chickens will roost in there. We'll find them in here. We'll find eggs in here. We find eggs in the buckets. We find eggs actually all over the place. Not right now. and I'll tell you why in a second. But notice that we've got the fence around the coop because I have 3 dogs. And we had an incident, the first year we bought chickens, we had 10 chickens and my German Shepherd got in and then we ended up with 6. Maverick, yes. He got 6 of the chickens. Some people will also put wire over the top because you have to worry about raptors too. So if there's a hawk or something, it can get in there. Now, we have a rooster and our rooster is really good about shooing the chickens into the coop if there's a predator threat. But we also have to worry about other animals too. I mean, where we are, we've had coyote, we've had fox get in. We actually have 2 of the chickens would fly over the fence and wander around. We call them Thelma and Louise. And the fox got them, sadly. And then we actually had in what I think is, and honestly, I don't know the answers to everything, so I rely on some of my chicken friends, and Peggy Burke is on the line. She's one of my chicken friends, and I usually ask her, you know, hey, this happened. Can you tell me what animal this was? And I think it was a mink. This is really gross. You guys are eating. Maybe I won't tell you.
Now you have to tell us. It's pork.
It's, well, I go out to the coop and the chicken wouldn't be all there. I had to move on. So that's something, sometimes what happens. And you have to be prepared for that. Now, I eat meat and love it. Clearly, it doesn't look like I'm missing any meals. But I can't kill the animal. I can't. So I'm a hypocrite like that. You can put it on my plate, I'll cook it all day long, but I can't kill it. So my husband there's a rule in our house that if he has to dispatch an animal, he just tells me it ran away. So it's like, here, it ran away, why don't you put this in the freezer? This is how I do it. And this is something else that I learned too. When you buy chickens for eggs, generally those aren't the chickens that you eat because they're too tough. So if you put them in a crock pot and stew or cook them for a long time, that helps. If you want chickens that you want to raise to eat, you need to get like a broiler chicken or something, and they only are around for, I don't think they're even around for a year. Yeah.
And they tip over because you overfeed them.
Yeah. So we don't have it. We just want eggs, and the eggs are fabulous. So I do have, the next slide, I have a video. When we first got our chickens, I used to have a little Chiweenie, Coco. Some of you know Coco. And we had to put her down. She was 18 years old. The dog was alive. But she corralled some of the, she was like a little chicken dog. So I'm going to share this, and I hope it works. Let's see if this, I think it takes a second. Sorry, here we go. This is our very first, this is pre-engineered coop. So this is what we started with. This is where Maverick got the chickens, but we had them fenced. So sorry, this is taking a second here. It takes too long, I'll go on. It's cute, but it's not.
It seems like chickens would be a much better emotional pet than a cat or a dog, simply because at the end of the day, you can eat the chicken.
It's like you need your feelings.
Right? Well,
Yeah.
How do you eat your pet?
I was just gonna say that.
That's not very nice.
I'm not sure. I was just offering exactly what happened later. No, he's still the same size. I can come back to this after, because this isn't. Wait, I can open it. Okay, I'm just gonna move on here, sorry. I do a video later though, so here, I wanna share some myths about chickens, and, actually, let's see if I can. So I'd like to point out here, these are myths. It is poppycock. Now these were poppycock or like mini poppycock. So if I keep the egg warm, I can hatch a chicken. That's something I hear a lot. The next slide has the truth. These are poppycock and mini poppycock. Egg color depends on what you feed them. I've heard people say that as well. Chickens will lay eggs all year round. I offered to give you guys a dozen eggs. Do you see them here? You get an egg rain check. Chickens will lay until they die. Well, I guess if they die prematurely. You can let them wander about, and they don't require much care. We've already debunked that, right? Because I've said they're low maintenance, but not no maintenance. So now let's go from poppycock to the truth. Yes, eggs need to be warm. They also need a rooster. So if you have a flock of only hens, they can sit on that egg forever and nothing will happen. Biology.
What does the rooster do?
Yeah, what does the rooster do?
I will tell you because I have a picture, I don't have a picture of what the rooster does. The rooster will mount the hen. It's brutal to watch. And I have a little gizmo that you can put on the hen to protect its back because it really gets, it gets bad. Yeah, no, we're not, no one's doing that, chicken. That's not that kind of program, that's not what we're doing.
Not safe.
No. Chickens actually, when the days get shorter, when it's less light, that's when they stop laying as much. Now,
You
it
put
was,
a light on in your house and then let me lay.
yes, we don't do that though, because I'm afraid I'm gonna burn my house down, and I don't want that either. So, but you're right, you can, because they respond to the light.
I'm gonna get it done in the day.
Yeah,
This
'cause-
is safe. One life is
exactly, biology. So right now, my chickens, I have the 7 hens, and they're laying about 2 eggs a week. Normally, I will get like 5 eggs a day, so they really do slow down. Now, chickens live anywhere between like 5 to 7 years or something. Some can live longer, obviously, and certainly if you are Asian, you don't live quite as long. But they stop laying after a certain point, so henopause is real. And I wish I could take credit for coming up with that, but I didn't. But it's appropriate, so there is henopause.
So then how many years do they lay?
3 or 4 is what I've read. Now ours, I think we have a couple now that are gonna stop, like, sorry, how many years do they lay? Is the question. Yeah, so we've gotten, ours, I think the oldest ones are like 4, and we're getting sporadic, yeah.
They slow down too, right?
They do slow down.
Is that when you let them run away?
Well, that's what my husband wants, and I've told him no. Because now they're emotional pets for me, but not in my house. So now the fox wants you to just let them run around, right? And so does Maverick, my German Shepherd. So you really, no, you can, if you have no, predators, certainly let them run. I'd love to let them just run all over the backyard because they're great getting rid of bugs and ticks and things, and it's fabulous. And then, again, low maintenance, but not no maintenance. Okay, now, some common phrases. Favorite movie? Pecking order, hen peck, and rules the roost are all sort of chicken phrases. And if you watch chickens, holy crap. We had the first go round, we had the 4 roosters, which is bad. You really just want 1 rooster because they try to
I want 80 roosters.
establish, well, I like my 1 rooster.
They crow.
Yeah, that's why I like it. So if you don't want your crowing, then don't get a rooster. If you like that, because I enjoy that.
Well, you don't like it when I.
Can you tell a boy from a girl when they're little chicks?
I can't.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But you can order, they can order them sexed.
They're a job. There's a job. Quick, chicken, sexy.
But that's
chicken.
not 100%. Because I got 10 what I thought were hens, and I named them, and you'll find this if Peggy's on the line. I named one of them was Peggy, and then I named a couple after a couple of other folks we worked with. And it turns out Peggy was not a female, so now it's Ruth Peggy is what we're calling it. So it's not 100%, but yeah, you can get them sexed. And the first time we thought, no, I mean, what are the chances, statistics? And we ended up with 4 roosters. It was a mess because they were pecking at one of the roosters. And so I had to get advice. You don't want to get rid of the one that's getting pecked, you want to get rid of the bullies because otherwise they're just going to go bully someone else. So we had to, some of them ran away. They ran away. And we had some chicken cacciatore. So as scarce as hens,
We learned that
that's sort of
something
an
new
old
at every
phrase,
science
but
contact
I don't
we do
actually
on
have
the
teeth,
show.
so that would be why they're scarce. Chicken scratch, so you've seen people who've written like chicken, and then they say, oh my god, this is chicken scratching. Well, chickens do, they scratch. Mother hen, those mother hen, they're bastards. You're like, they're gonna screw you up if you try and go in there and, take the egg or do whatever it is you think you're doing. Fox in the hen house, we've kind of covered. Flew the coop, Thelma and Louise, and then they're gone. Mad as a wet hen, whether they're mad or not, they look mad enough, I'm not going near them. And then walk on eggshells, you've heard, you're no spring chicken. And she was a bad egg. Now there's a test for eggs. You can, if you fill a glass with water and put the egg in it, if it sinks, it's a good egg. Here's how I do it. I take the frying pan, crack the egg, if it doesn't smell and there's no chicken in it, then I cook it. So that's my method. Works every time. So these are some other things. Now that I have chickens, everybody is sending me everything. I'm not one of, I had this conversation with Adam ahead of time. I don't dress my pets. So I'm not knitting them little outfits. As cute as this is, but I'm sure that chicken's embarrassed.
And I bet that owner has a lot of packs.
I bet. Or a lot of poop in the house, because I bet that chicken goes in the house. I'm not even sure why your chicken needs a helmet, unless it's playing the game of chicken, I don't know, what's that?
Chicken fight?
Chicken fight, oh, chicken fights, sure. Cockfighting, I guess, maybe you need a helmet, I don't know. We were talking about what the rooster does to the chicken. So this is a chicken saddle, I'm not sure if you can see it in the upper corner here. It's something that, now this I would put on a hen because it protects their backs, because those roosters, they'll rip the feathers out and they scratch, I mean, it gets really nasty, and then you could get, parasites and different things in there, so you wanna protect those. This is just fun things that people do.
That's awesome.
It's actually really fun, reuse, recycle. And had I known I could do this instead of riding my broom, I mean,
No, she did.
I did. And if you go to Instagram or other social media sites and you search the hashtag chickens of Instagram or chickens of whatever, you're gonna find all kinds of fun things. And I actually love this woman, and I wish I'd come up with this. It's one of those like, son of a gun, why you? And I don't mean that really, but she calls it drinking with chickens. And she doesn't actually feed the chickens drinks, but she makes all these drinks and takes the pictures of the chicken near the drink. It's really actually quite beautiful to see. So, and I think she has a book, a drink recipe book that you can get now too. But she lets her chickens walk around the house, and again, why? They're pooping on stuff. They're pooping.
They don't make chicken
Can you
diapers?
give them chicken diapers?
Do they make chicken diapers?
Yeah.
Chicken. Imagine, do they make chicken diapers? They make that, so I imagine there are chicken diapers.
Can't you litter train chickens?
Yeah.
I honestly don't know. Maybe. I'm not trying that though.
Don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
If you're crazy enough to keep a chicken in your house,
They sure
you're
make
litter
traffic.
So, I think I have one more before chicken TV. Hang on, let's see. Yes. So why did the chicken cross the road? Answer number one is to get to the other side, right? Answer number two, and this I have to credit Ann Lee, one of my colleagues in the J School. She sent me an article, because again, once you have chickens and people know you like them, I don't know how you might tell, they send you all these things. Apparently, I think this was in the Washington Post earlier this week, the chicken crossed the road to get into the Pentagon. So the chicken got into the Pentagon, national security issue, so, or is it a Trojan chicken? I don't know.
But there's like nothing but highway around there.
Yeah, no one knows how it happened. That's why, when you read the article, it's hilarious.
And an elevator.
My parents once.
Apparently there was a chicken. If anyone wants the article, I believe it was the Washington Post. I'm sure if you Google chicken at the Pentagon, it'll come up. Unless it's the menu, do they have a cafeteria? So the next thing I want to share with you is chicken TV. So I've already told you that I have chickens in the backyard, and I also have a swing that I can sit in my swing and watch my chickens because they're actually quite relaxing and meditative and kind of hypnotic. And I thought I was weird and the only one. So then as I was reading my issue of Chickens Magazine, because who doesn't? I realized there are other people like me who enjoy watching their chickens. And in fact, one woman even called it chicken TV. So then I started thinking, I'm freaking creative. I work in the J School, I have access to these sorts of things. So I'm gonna put together a chicken soap opera. So I reached out to my colleague MJK, Mike Jones Kelly, who's an old ad man, literally old and an old ad man, and he would be okay with me saying that. And he's a copywriter by training, and I said, I need a name for my chicken soap opera. So the two of us are sitting ahead of one of our faculty meetings, and Chris Mikowski, one of my other colleagues, is there, and he's shouting out names, trying to play off of some of the common soap operas you've heard, and Chris Mikowski says, The Young and the Nestless. And MJK and I both said, that's it. So I corralled a couple of colleagues the other day to help put together the premier episode, world premiere of The Young and the Nestless. And I hope that it buffed, this we're gonna wait to watch. You didn't need to wait to see Coco, but you can wait to watch The Young and the Nestless.
Better work.
And there's a word of warning, there's foul language.
This better be safe. I'm just saying.
The sky is falling. The sky is falling. We need to get out here. The sky is falling.
Oh, for crying out loud. She's always saying that. Honestly,
Okay, should I,
Pause it.
her alone.
Let it catch up.
hang on.
Out loud.
Sorry.
She's always.
Hey guys, come on.
I'm trying.
The sky is falling.
In the middle.
The sky is falling. We need to get out here.
Love in the middle.
The sky is falling.
Okay, sorry, okay. Let it catch up.
You know,
Do I hang on anything, do I?
The Academy Award, best short film of the year.
That's where it's going. Oh, there we go. Hang on,
now you're gonna make me get TikTok.
it'll be on the website as well, don't worry.
Is this what you were making the other day?
It is. Hang on.
Come on. The sky is falling. The sky is falling. We need to get out here. The sky is falling.
Oh, for crying out loud. She's always saying that. Just leave her alone.
I think it is actually falling. Look at this. I think the sky is actually falling.
No, you are full of it. The sky is not falling.
Oh, no.
Girls, you don't have to go out there. The sky isn't falling. For crying out loud.
Look at it. There it is. It's flying.
Oh my. Whoa, that's different. Maybe the sky is falling. Well, that's because it isn't a piece of the sky. It's a piece of watermelon, lady. So just chill. Just chill. Well, yeah, sky does taste good that way. Well, there's some over there. Go get some of that. Whoa, whoa, big dog, big dog. Girls, open the door. Come on, girls, big dog, big dog. Well, girls, the sky is not falling, so back inside. You've had your food, you've had your fill. Come on, it's cold outside to cry out loud. Get in. Shake those tail feathers, girl, and get in here. Move it, move it, move it, move it. Hey, hey, hey. No, not one melon off of you. Get in the coop. For crying out loud. Are we the only smart ones in this operation? Yeah, yeah. Don't give me sass like that. This is a clean coop.
Hang on, sorry.
Hey guys, come on. The sky is
Hang on, sorry,
falling.
let
The
me go
sky is
back.
falling.
So here we are, meet the characters. So Maggie was, Rue Peggy was voiced by Denny, Big Dog is Maverick. And I'd like to thank Mike Spawn, my colleague, because he helped with the video and sound editing, because I sure did do this myself. But we had some fun the other day. And this is one of those things that I really do want to do more regularly. And this was just a one-off thing. So hopefully I'll be able to do more of this, likely after the snow melts when they're actually outside being active. So I hope you enjoyed that. It will be on, I'll tell you where to find it in just a second.
You need a theme song.
I know we do, and I'm gonna have someone put it, and a logo. Don't worry, we're making this a huge operation.
We would expect nothing less.
There you go, there you go. So this is something, the next thing I wanna share, everybody has Peeps on their table. So last month, Sean, I felt challenged by him, because he came in and he said toward the end of his presentation, I need to bring it around to beer because we are in a bar, we're in a brew pub. So I thought, how am I gonna do this? I mean, we could talk about pairing, I don't know, chicken tacos and beer, but then I thought, wait a minute. I think most of you probably know Guy Imhoff. When the two of us were deans together, I have no idea why, but we had this thing with Peeps. And we bring them to a dean's meeting every once in a while. And one day he said, I wonder what pairs with Peeps. Yeah. So I actually looked this this up. There are websites you can go to find out what potable pairs perfectly with a peep. So, now I don't drink beer, so those of you who are beer drinkers, you can tell me if this is true. Bourbon barrel-aged beers like a stout might pair well
I
with
finished
a
it,
peep.
but you didn't tell me they might peep with my beer.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. If you were a wine drinker, I'm a wine drinker. I can imagine pairing a white with the peep. That makes sense. And there were a lot of cocktails. Anyone's a cocktail drinker, and I chose this one simply because
What a great game.
bourbon peep. Come on, that's funny, and in keeping with what I'm doing here. So this is what, if you want to make this drink, you can certainly make this drink. I'm going to have a glass of wine later and a peep. So that's bringing it around to booze.
Yeah.
Now here's where you'll find me. So if you go to Tippy Homestead, that's where, tippyhomestead.com, that has pictures of my farm and things. And I also have my all natural body care products, but you can go there and that's where I'll put the video. It's not there yet, don't look for it right now. Marching Women's History is coming. In March. Those of you who, if you don't remember or don't know, I take the NCAA bracket, the basketball bracket, remove all the basketball and put the women in. And this year I filled the bracket almost with women overshadowed by men, but I can't completely because women are overshadowed by men. So I'm also going to incorporate some information about the 50th anniversary of Title IX, so we'll put some of those pieces in there as well. I have my Dana Doyen podcast and website, and then also with a colleague, or excuse me, a former student who's now a colleague, we formed Arcane Shrine Alchemists, 3 witches, who are doing tarot and rune readings and astrology readings. So if you're interested in that, reach out. If you're not, don't worry, I still love you. And I put this here so I didn't forget. I don't have the eggs now because, as I said, they're not laying right away, but if everybody's local, everybody has a number, and I did some random number generation earlier, and I hope that someone has one of the numbers that's out there. If not, we'll find a different method. So I will deliver a dozen eggs to you when I have them. Okay, fair enough? All right, does anyone have 54? Okay, how about 51? 68. Oh, you're okay. 16. 43.
43? That's a good bingo.
I might have 16, but I can't really tell.
So I will deliver eggs to your house, Barb, when they're laying.
My mother will always be indebted to you.
Okay. And that's all I have. Thank you for joining me.